Wage growth and population growth, my two favorite. Jen, you're doing a bunch of projects. Are you seeing labor costs on a lot of these bids?
Well, yeah, like one of our projects in Tucson, I thought we could do for like 150,000 and we're in at 173.
Let's launch into SpaceX.
Yeah.
So I've been a big fan of Elon. I think it's noteworthy to say he will be the world's first trillionaire on Friday.
Would Elon merge X and XAI into SpaceX ahead of this IPO so he could better fit into the tech box? Because
the ultimate
he did
bailout
this
for X.
I do think this is the infrastructure of the future. AI is here. What is it going to look like? It's going to transform society.
Welcome back to another episode of the Cash Flow Quest. We got a fun day for you guys because we're going to lean into kind of the economic update, the SpaceX IPO, which is like you can't not talk about it. It's going to be the largest IPO ever in the history of IPOs. And it's like there's a lot of just talking points and interesting dynamics with it specifically. But then, of course, you have the big AI companies, Anthropic and OpenAI, that are going to ride the coattails, I'd say, on the massive capital raise effort of this initial public offering for SpaceX, Anthropic, and OpenAI. So it's a heck of a week, or maybe a couple of weeks in the middle of June. And so then there's a lot of stuff going on, causing disruption in oil pricing. Iran is not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Shocking.
So we're going to run through it. So with that, let's kick off. I'd say we're going to start with oil, Iran, the dynamic of the Fed funds, what they're doing, the new
Jobs.
jobs, CPI,
jobs, CPI, the new Fed chair, kind of how that dynamic is, and like we'll cover that broadly, and then we'll go to the next topic.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll kind of kick off on just the economy. So today, CPI came out, 4.3, I believe, and then like core was like 2.3. So that like removes like anything like food and energy related, 2.3. But the top line number, CPI, was 4.3. It was in line with expectations. So the thought is, even though that's a high number, right? The thought is that the market, from what I'm reading, right, the market was pricing this in that it was going to be still another hot CPI read, but the velocity of how much it increased is kind of a good thing, right? So like it increased proportionally smaller month over month, and they track CPI year over year, right? Like this month to last June, it was actually May of last year. So that was a huge, like I would say like a positive or just like a neutral market stance. So you didn't see like the market sell off like crazy. And then, but what you did see from last week was a hot jobs report that came in that actually kind of sold off the market, and treasuries sold off, and 10-year treasuries went up. And then you saw Trump tweeting like, what is going on? We should be stoked about a growth economy. People are getting jobs. Why is the market selling off? And that's just goes back to, which I'm sure a lot of people know, it's the dual mandate of the Fed. It's price stability, inflation, and then full employment. If the thought is that we're at or near full employment, then the only other thing that they're going to focus on is inflation. And if inflation continues to run hot because of oil and energy prices, because of the war in Iran, then there is a higher probability that the Fed's not actually going to cut rates. And so Kevin Walsh, I think is his name. Yeah, Kevin Walsh coming in as the new Fed chair, that his hands will be tied, that he won't actually cut the short end of the curve, the Fed funds rate, but it actually is now getting priced in of rate hikes for like September. There's like, I think it's like over 50% now, or it's at 50%, that the September Fed meeting that they would increase the Fed funds rate. So that's what's happening.
The two different dynamics that they really hyper focus on is jobs and inflation.
That's it.
CPI.
That's the only two things.
Now, what is the latest news on jobs?
Jobs are good, so it checks that box.
But is it truly good, or are they going to edit the numbers again? Well, they resolve that?
Yeah, so that yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
I agree. So
it was like next month it's like, oops, sorry, we were off by 100,000, of 170,000.
Yeah. Well,
because I'm hearing Main Street is not happy.
I agree. Well, I agree with that. Like I agree, like the real economy, and by what I say the real economy is like we talk to business owners all the time. You can kind of feel it too. Like I just feel.
So construction is definitely nosediving.
Yes.
Or settling, not nosediving, settling down.
Yeah.
And like we have a couple of big clients that we interface regularly that are in construction materials, and all of that is like cold, like slow. slower
Yeah.
than they've seen it in a long time.
There's-
So then that new construction is not going anywhere. Like it's more like things that were in pipeline are now being wrapped up.
Right.
But that's where it's like, and I'm hearing about job layoffs on that front. That's why I'm specifically poking at the job numbers because I don't trust them.
I agree with you. Then I'll pass it over to Jen or Ty to opine. But I agree with you. But like the Fed, and this is always
It's the only way they look at it.
correct. Yeah, and it's this data that they pull. There's always been a ton, even with like the CPI and how they factor in like inflation. Like, do you know how they do rents? Like how they factor in housing costs? It's a survey. They go and ask people like, hey, if you were to rent your house that they own, how much would you rent it for? It's like if someone walked up to me, knocked on my door and was like, hey, how much would you rent your house for? I'd be like $10,000 a month.
$1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Well,
it's
no,
like,
but then
there's no
I've never
way I would
got the
get
call. Like nobody I know has ever received the survey.
I'm just saying that.
You know, isn't that interesting?
I agree. So
You probably have, but you're deleting these spam calls.
I don't take spam calls.
and that's just the problem with just how they gather data. Because I agree completely with you. I was just on the phone with a large mortgage broker, and we're talking. He's focused on multifamily, Aaron, right? And he said, yeah, like construction loans right now, like they're just
There's
they're
too much
just not
supply.
they're just
Yeah.
not existing because no one's getting in the ground. A lot of these tech companies aren't hiring. They're not firing, but they're not hiring. Except Meta, they just laid off like 70,000 employees. But I'm with you, Blake, as far as like how you think about it. But it's just
because I think that's kind of like a sort of a black box element. Like everyone says it broadly, but it's like, what does it mean, and how is it truly looked at? Okay, so then
how do they collect the job data? Do they do a survey like the rents?
no, they use like they use
this
like
isn't clean either.
Yeah, it's not clean either because when it was down, it's like
Well,
the
sorry, this is the one we're talking
Bureau
about. But
Labor-
then you go to inflation, and inflation is where we jumped kind of on the housing dynamic of CPI.
Yeah.
Housing, yeah. So we kind of melded the two. But so you got like, what is CPI? Finish on CPI on inflation. What's their target? I thought it was 3%.
It's 2%.
2 originally, and then it was like, well, maybe we'll do 3.
Well, no, it is 2%. They haven't changed that that benchmark. But Larry Fink came out like 2 years ago, and I agree with him completely that they need to up it. They need to change it to 3% or have some sort of range because it's kind of hard. And then here's the other thing. Going
With
back,
the data lag effect, they're not going to get back to 2 without breaking something. They're going to like actually tank the economy first.
Here's my kind of like, if I think about my go forward stance on inflation and employment and the whole thing, and just how this ties into treasuries, this is my stance. I feel like AI and everything that's happening is going to be long-term deflationary. It's going to bring down inflation. It just makes sense, right? I think that the other spectrum is that I think unemployment is going to go up in the short term. That is not great because people lose jobs, right? But if you think about if you're just focused on rates, that'd be very, very good for rates, because what that would do is that mean that the Fed would go into a more dovish policy, start cutting rates, maybe implementing QE because you're in a recession because of unemployment numbers or the economy's not as strong. Inflation is under control. So I could see in like 5 years, just us going back to more like a more flat treasury curve and more lower rates. I'm not saying like 3% rates like what we saw on mortgages and stuff like that. I'm not talking that, but I just think that if I really play out what's going on, that's where I think it's the same thing that kind of happened to an extent with the .com and just internet. Like technology has been historically very deflationary. And that's good because you got just, if we go back and then I'll shut up, but like the dual mandate, right? So like if you can get inflation under control, and then if employment is weak, the Fed is going to step in a big way and be very aggressive on cutting rates or implementing any QE, anything like that, buying down treasury yields by adding to their balance sheet, all of that stuff. So
I'll pop in. I just want to add a little bit of context. You were talking about the BLS and like how accurate their numbers are.
Yeah.
Part of the headline is that they did make revisions that were positive, right? So it looks like they corrected March to 29,000, bringing it to 214,000, and April up by 64,000. So that is where this 188,000 jobs is coming out. It's looking better. Now, I want to give some operational context because we are doing a lot of hiring and we're kind of seeing it right now live. But also, I heard a really interesting point that it's something like a large percentage of Americans, let's say it's 50%, have only $500 in their bank account.
Yeah.
And so the cost of gas has like ripped through because it's basically doubled. So it's ripped through a lot of people's savings.
Wow.
And so there is a lot of context that some of this job growth is people taking on an additional part-time job.
Yeah.
That's affecting the numbers, which makes sense. And so the, let's see what the top.
Out of pure struggle.
It's
boosting that number, which is kind of screwed up.
The top sectors for job growth are leisure and hospitality, which is food service and drinking places, so bars, healthcare, transportation, and warehousing. So that like kind of gives some context as to where we are seeing the growth. That being said, and I agree, I feel like I kind of get two sides of the coin. There are people that I talk with and it's like they're really struggling right now. But something that's been really interesting on our hiring and recruiting front is we have people that are very, like our wage understanding of what certain jobs pay is low. We're seeing a lot of wage growth. That makes sense to me. I'm seeing where like we had somebody applying for a staff accountant position, and we thought we were pretty high, and they had another person at the table. So we even came up and they ended up taking another job. And we were like, I mean, this is someone that had 3 years of experience, and
somebody outbid us basically.
They outbid us and brought someone who had 3 years of accounting experience to six figures.
Lay out the numbers, just because I think it's an interesting context, and we're not sharing anything private.
Yeah,
lay out the comp, because this is an interesting dynamic.
It is.
And like everyone that's running real estate operations, it's a real like data point for them.
Well, and mind you, we're in San Diego, so it's different in other cities. But like in San Diego, what is it?
Yeah, so we were thinking to bring in like an entry level property accountant. We'd probably be in like the $75,000 to $80,000 range. This person wanted 90 plus, so we came up to 90 plus to match, and then they went with a defense contractor here in San Diego who offered them more vacation time but the same payroll. So I think they took more of like a large company bet versus in the small company.
Are they allowed to work from home?
I don't recall that being. I actually don't believe that was the case. We have had that, for some accounting positions, but I'm not just seeing it in accounting. I'm seeing it kind of across the board where it's like,
well, it makes sense. The cost of living has gone up.
So
it's like forcing our hand collectively, forcing employers. Because I just heard in San Diego, just having like lower level restaurant help, it's like minimum $20, which in the day it used to be way cheaper than that. I mean, not just in the day, recently, like 2-3 years ago even.
Yeah. I guess for my take is I do hear the, storm cloud and the rain and understand that that's happening for some places. Our company seems to be touching a lot of jobs. We're bringing on people. There's a lot going on. I understand we're a growing company, but it seems like I'm kind of also feeling like that's happening just in general in property management and real estate. Like things are happening, wages are growing. And if jobs are being brought on like that, I do think there is some goodness happening right now.
I like wage growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love wage growth. Wage growth and population growth, my two favorite.
Well, and it sounds like then, to your point, it's really like construction focused, unfortunately. But it does make sense because we kind of have this like demand pull forward on like future demand for all things multifamily storage, pick your flavor on different new product. When debt was cheap and you could borrow construction paper at 3%, 4%, 5% because it's on floating rate, it's based on SOFR that was pinging off zero. That is a moment in time like no other to bring in some new product out of the ground. And so we pulled a lot of probably future development pipeline into now.
Yeah.
And now it's being achieved and done. And it's going to be weird because we're going to now fall off a cliff for the future for probably the next 5 years.
I agree. And like Jen, you're doing a bunch of projects. Are you seeing labor costs on a lot of these bids? Like just labor costs, like, because that all flows through on wage growth, right?
Well, in the bids that we're getting for like the clubhouse renovations and stuff like that, we're thinking it'll come in, maybe 10 or 20% less than it actually is. So then it's like,
Are we seeing something like that?
Well, yeah, like one of our projects in Tucson, I thought we could do for like $150,000, and we're in at $173,000. So like that was my all-in contingency and everything. So it is increasing. Depends on the wage and the complexity of the project, but like.
Are there more people bidding though? Is there more people hungry for work on that side? Do you feel?
One guy in particular is hungry for work and wants us to always bid him, but like. We work with two main guys. If they come in super high, we do have a third that we quote, but we kind of like have found our couple contractors in Phoenix specifically that we like.
In Tucson right now, I have more renovation crews than I've ever had before.
Yeah.
Which is a tell that, because frankly, a lot of renovation teams, if they have other work, like nice single family homes, they don't want to come flip trailers. So that's a decent tell on renovation crews getting a little bit less work elsewhere and needing the work with us.
However, I do have one of our primary contractors who told us he doesn't want to do work for us anymore because he's getting so many jobs up in Phoenix for higher end stuff. So
Phoenix makes sense.
Yeah,
there's a lot of growth there. Like,
just business is happening. I guess
it is.
So it's like
we're kind of in that awkward moment then, because I think that there's going to be a moment where we can get construction jobs bid down cheaper when it slows down enough. You're just going to end up with that. You're going to end up with people wanting jobs. Whereas right now they still have enough to keep them fat and happy. And so pricing, wages, nothing has really changed.
We are seeing with a couple of guys we work with too, they're really trying to like build relationships and have it's their way, I think, of building a pipeline of work for themselves with a few clients that they're working with companies like us that are doing new business and growing, not knowing, hoping that it's not just like a one-off. So, I mean, we've had 3 guys I've had that conversation with that, they're trying to like get to know us, maybe give us a little better price so that we continue to use them. Yeah. So then we negotiate there if we can, but they are looking because I think they maybe feel it coming in the market that like their other jobs are ending and they don't. So if they can get in with these companies that have more projects and growth, they prefer that. Yeah.
We've been negotiating renovation here, and we did have a contractor who was like, I don't want the job. I have other jobs.
Yeah.
And that's unrelated. It's not because we're just having a kick butt company right now that's driving that. Like that's somebody on Main Street who turned down business. So
yeah, it's an interesting time. I think it's turning though. I think it's turning to where the contractors in general are going to start. It's going to start getting more and more skinny for how many jobs. Unless you build that forward pipeline intentionally.
I think you said it perfectly. I think it's an awkward time is like a way to think about it. And I think the same way as you're talking through that, and I agree with you on pulling demand forward on building and all that other stuff. I feel the same way about the stock market and everything. Like I talk to our clients all the time, well, the stock market's doing great. I'm like, I know. And I think it's probably going to continue to do great, but like, it's just it could drop 30%. Like SpaceX, which we'll jump to next, like, SpaceX, Anthropic, OpenAI, these IPOs are siphoning billions of dollars
more.
From the market. I don't know. Like, what does that do?
Let's get into this.
Let's pivot.
Let's launch into SpaceX.
Yeah.
So I've been a big fan of Elon just from a visionary standpoint for a long time. I've read when he first started SpaceX. I read the biography that came out about him. And he's an interesting dude, unbelievable visionary. So what he's doing is completely figured out how to like hack and reframe the dynamic of an IPO in his favor in this regard. Obviously, he's got Tesla. He already did that. But the valuation when he launched Tesla into IPO wasn't as crazy. The price to earnings market was more, I'd say, steady Eddie back then. And so now he figured out, because I was kind of like, why did he go to Nasdaq? Well,
it's a tech company. So most
of the tech companies are on the Nasdaq.
100 largest tech companies go through Nasdaq, so it's natural. It'd be natural for him.
So, but then Nasdaq did a critical change in policy for him, which meant he did not have to IPO and have a seasoning of the stock share price
12 months
for 12 months before it makes it into the top 100. Once it's in top 100, all the hedge funds have to allocate.
Well, it's not the hedge funds, it's the ETFs.
Oh, okay.
The index funds. So it's State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock, which are the 3 biggest, right?
So there's a bunch of other ones, right?
Yeah.
Just to be clear,
100%. Yeah.
That have you said Vanguard?
Vanguard. There's VanEck. There's
So is there like 10 or 20 of them? How many of them are there?
Probably like 100. There's even like small ones too.
Oh, it's a lot of money.
There's going to be most people.
It's a lot of money, but the big money. So like
is those 3 or 4.
Most people are going to have exposure if they're in the markets
instantly, which is really rare.
So this
It's actually never been done before, I don't think.
So this is interesting because I used to do this, right? And I was obviously a junior, but I used to start my career at iShares on the ETF desk, on the creation redemption desk.
BlackRock acquired iShares. You're working with BlackRock iShares.
Yes.
ETF desk.
Correct.
Okay.
And so what's interesting about this is that what happens is that when something like SpaceX or any company gets introduced into an index, usually there is that seasoning period, but they're going to get introduced. What needs to happen now is that all of these large ETFs, all the BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, they need to start buying that stock, right? Because that ETF is tracking that index.
So it has to because it's a basket of goods. Right? How much money is that inflow? Because that's what Elon is tapping into. He's created a mechanism to force equity in.
I would imagine it's in the billions, right? And probably in the hundreds of billions that needs to get allocated that needs to own this share. Just from a standpoint of tracking, right?
The 100 companies that are in it.
Yes, because if you own like the QQQ, right, which is the Nasdaq 100, is the most well-known ETF that tracks the index, the Nasdaq 100. If SpaceX and they'll lower the weighting first, even though there's probably a seasoning, like introducing it right away, they're not going to do a market, what's called a market cap value to it immediately, meaning if it's a $1.7 trillion company, which they're saying, right?
Which is a crazy valuation.
They would need to weight it based on that market cap in the index, right? So it could be weighted. I'm just making up a number. It could be like 10% of the index. I'm just making that up, right?
It's a big number.
Significant.
It's got to be.
So then
what's the next company? Pull up the Nasdaq 100 company valuations. I bet you it's top value.
I would imagine so too, right? Yeah, because it's one of the largest.
Maybe Google, Apple. There's probably
there's not that many $1 trillion companies, right? I mean, there's a lot more now, but
Nvidia's on there probably.
Nvidia is $1 trillion company.
So break down, because
there's only a couple.
Her and I are not stock market people. We're just kind of getting into it so we can hold liquidity there and be in the markets. But if you were to just say Nasdaq 100 for dummies, what is like the summary of the Nasdaq 100 versus like the S&P 500? So lay that out a little bit.
The Nasdaq 100 is the top largest 100 technology companies in the United States.
So would Elon merge X and XAI into SpaceX ahead of this IPO so he could better fit into the tech box, or was SpaceX with rockets
that's
already
a really good point.
Already there? Because
the ultimate
he did
bailout
this
for X.
Say that again.
When I was reading, it says Elon Musk merged X, formerly Twitter, and XAI into SpaceX ahead of the IPO.
Okay,
so that
I like
adds complexity. It says X advertising revenue, But why would he do that?
Okay, this is an unbelievable. Do you guys have any context around this?
No.
I feel like I'm all fired up over here.
I feel like I do have context around
Okay.
So okay, let's play ping pong a little bit. So you buy X for $40 billion. He raised money to do that, by the way. He didn't just buy it himself. I mean, he did, but he had backers.
He had like 10 huge bank backers.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
he buys X. It literally tanks in revenue because it was a nightmare company to untangle from. Remember all the big I'm going to call them sponsors, but it was big revenue drivers that would do marketing on X pulled because he bought it.
Yeah, but it also, they found out that half the users were fake during the due diligence.
Yeah.
No,
exactly.
There was a ton
lot of drama.
Fleas jumping off the old dog. Like, it was, but it was riddled with weird, maybe fraud, but like weird dynamics in the woke realm.
It was a campaigning tool.
And so he bought it, broke that. But that company, X, other than like what he did to it from creating a better, cleaner platform to, share thoughts and views on, it really became a lot less valuable from a revenue standpoint. So then he boots up an AI company because Sam, what's his name? Sam Altman. He runs off with OpenAI, who Elon fully backed. Started from scratch tapped Sam Altman, and Sam Altman ran off with it.
Okay.
And it was a non-profit that he's now going to take public. It's one of the most odd things I've ever heard about, where like a non-profit foundation is then created as a for-profit and then makes like a public company out of it.
Makes trillions of dollars.
It's Elon style.
Elon says he doesn't understand how they're even doing it because of how they wrote the docs. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Whoa.
And so But nonetheless, cat's out of the bag, right? OpenAI starts running. The people that started Anthropic were from OpenAI and did not like that it was slanted, seemingly slanted towards the left, and it wasn't fair.
Is XAI different than Anthropic or Open?
XAI is
different
Elon's
AI version.
Third version, let's say, right? It's like the third version of the AI biggest.
Is it Grok?
Grok.
Okay, Grok.
Which now I'd say he's shifting from the company holdings. It's not called Grok, it's called XAI.
XAI,
and it's embedded in X because he needed something to bail out X.
He did.
Not saying X isn't usable and shouldn't be worth a lot of money, but it isn't worth that much on its own.
It's not worth,
but
what
it collects a bunch of data on the behalf of XAI and Grok, using Grok.
Okay.
So now you have those two, and what I'd say the come to Jesus for him was, we're not going to be able to build the data centers that are required on Earth. Energy, NIMBYism, like it's all of a sudden here, and they don't want to build data centers all over the place and basically suck all the energy and water. I didn't know the water was such a big thing, but they consume millions of gallons of water
because of the heat that's produced.
So they're running like a radiator cooling system through them. So then he goes, well, hell, I have the rocket company, the AI, and like the data mining element of X. We'll conjoin all three. He folded with no cash. He folded XAI and X into SpaceX. So they own a bunch of shares.
Yeah, they merged
them.
Hold on. We're missing a part of the puzzle.
Okay, all right.
I think it's the secret sauce.
Okay.
Starlink.
Yeah, the Starlink is...
Well, yeah, but yeah, keep going.
Starlink and all these satellite, this is like primary utility infrastructure of the future.
Yes.
And that's where I think the true value of this is.
Yeah.
Where it's like...
It wasn't there yet, but yeah,
they're saying that it's like 1.5 to 1.8 trillion. If NVIDIA is worth 5 trillion... the infrastructure of the future, I think, is worth more. I think it's going to be pretty impressive what it does, and I think that it's potentially even light. So the access to internet, like think about the values. If you're a country and you don't have like high speed internet, and now you can boot up Starlink with this AI platform and have access to this tool that you might not normally have. I think these are like the intrinsic values that are going to make it go really, really crazy.
And then I got to jump to a meeting, so I'm going to leave you guys to kind of wrap. But I agree with you. That is really interesting. But I think what Blake's talking about, what I'm so bullish about, is the energy is launching these massive satellites that get 24/7, 365 sun power and cooling naturally from the space, meaning just when you have heat in space, it just dissipates into space, right? It doesn't need to be cooled. And then you could use all the satellite infrastructure to then be able to have these massive energy data centers in space that using satellite low end compute to then shoot that down through Starlink down.
Well, I think it's the full picture. It's the whole picture. No, Starlink is a key. It's actually the only revenue driver at the time. Yeah. Like right now, it's the only revenue driver. And I have it. I have two of them. I love it. Like I was an early adopter. So you're right.
It works good.
So hold on. Why don't we pause? You jump. Okay. And then we'll continue because there's a lot to cover here. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Okay, so we regrouped. Ben had to jump. We have to do the thing and raise capital and buy real estate deals. But we want to continue on the SpaceX dynamic because Ty and I are kind of going into the baseline kind of meat and potatoes of where the revenue is in SpaceX currently. Then with the folding in XAI and X, and then what this means, basically driving users for Starlink, which is where your point was, which is Starlink is the meat and potatoes on revenue for SpaceX. And I think it's like to the tune of like $5 billion a year.
Yeah.
And the rest is like all CapEx spend. Not, no real money's coming in yet from anything else. I could be wrong there, but I think the meaningful lion's share is from Starlink. So that anyways.
All right, I'm excited. The Tide facts.
Well, basically they're pumping Starlink through satellites, which is the base infrastructure, right? And when we talk about AI,
and they have 10,000 satellites pumping Starlink.
And how many more are they pumping out?
Well, it's going to probably just continue to get more and more dense. But what they need to do for the AI data center dynamics, basically data center satellites powered by the sun, solar panels. And then on knife edge, they cool all of the systems with the computers behind them, and they're gonna have 100,000 of them. So like that's the goal. Which then a lot of naysayers are like, how the heck are they gonna get 100,000? 10,000 satellites a year is what they want to do, or like it's some crazy number. And they just now are getting that big heavy rocket to be able to be launched and reusable. Okay. And then one of them just blew up. So like there's just a lot of
variables.
movement.
Yeah.
But he's gonna get the rocket figured out. I mean, that's a no question. It's just a matter of blowing a couple up to figure it out.
Well, you guys see these when you go out. I mean, we're on the West Coast. I see SpaceX launching all the time.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that element.
It's really
just like
cool.
An aviation space nerd on that side.
So like, for example, we use AI and we access information. And the way these large language models work is the more data input they get, the more context, right? So like, for example, if you wanted it to write you a instruction manual on how to do a job, it could write it for you, but it would be much better if you gave it raw data on what you had already written. It could improve it could gain, right? So these are some of the benefits we see in accounting and HR, all these types of things. What's really interesting about Starlink is Starlink has all these satellites already out and they are data mining, right? They are helping already with worldwide logistics. I mean, we're seeing them directly in the Ukraine-Russia conflict where it's a new war process to where a smaller country has been able to use updated, information and be able to compete on a higher end with new age, warfare. And so imagine now you're using your AI model, like constantly getting all of this information that it's boosting, not just like the standard things that we're seeing from OpenAI, ChatGPT, all these different things. It's getting interesting things that no one else has. It has satellite control. It has vision. It has all these different things that it's gaining and it's inputting into its model, getting new and updated information where it's like, it has a very unique data set that nobody else has. I think it's really interesting. And I think when we talk about this world we're moving into, where like you order something, it's on your doorstep the next day, the logistics that have to happen, I think it's going to become integral with this new AI world that we're moving into. And that's where I feel like Starlink is like almost underrated in this. Like it's SpaceX, it's rockets. It's like, who cares about the rockets? Like, he's going to get them up there, but like it's the infrastructure that's out.
But without the rockets, you can't have Starlink.
I know. I'm just saying. But if you look at the valuation, the percentage of it that's based off of the rocket versus, I know it's like.
The rockets don't really make money. To your point,
what I'm saying is the rockets are like the horse and the cart is filled with gold, and the gold is Starlink.
yeah. But it's key infrastructure.
You need the cart and the horse.
Yeah. Okay, as long as we agree that you got to have it all, you can't remove one piece, because you end up with Starlink satellites going out and having service issues
for sure.
And but then you can push the next gen phase of AI being computed in space with perfect energy, and that's the big thing is energy production can be unbelievably efficient. He was laying out. I watched. He's been launching a ton of videos because of what's happening this week, and he needs to hype up.
Yeah, he's hyping it up.
He's raising cash. The fact that you cannot really, with a static solar panel, you cannot really develop that much energy with it because it goes dark half the day. Right. And then you really can only put them in certain zones within the band of the world of the most sunlight. So
it can't be in the sun all the time in space.
In space, it can be.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're intentionally creating like an in the sun catch for solar that can move into the sun all the time.
Yes. Okay.
You can always be in sun.
Right. So then the energy is ongoing. Right.
And I guess they can manage where like the layout of these satellites.
And move them and pivot them.
And they can move them around and so that they don't collide.
Yeah.
So it's basically like a grid system around the planet. It's next level.
It's the whole reason of Space Force, and they're already saying there's
the
battles happening
of the satellites.
For sure.
I've heard of contracting, military contractors locally that they have weapon systems that they mount on the satellites.
Oh, wow.
So you don't even have to fly there, right?
No.
You just tap a missile
with a computer
from that particular area over on the satellite,
Dang,
and
to
the
a
satellite goes
position on the
direct
Earth.
in with a missile or like a laser. There's all sorts of interesting things.
Wow.
So that's where a lot of what my sources, like the newsletters I subscribe to, they're saying you should look at the defense contracting side now, because that's where this is going, where all of those satellites will potentially also be leased and armed. So it's
For sure.
We did like the minimum just for fun to be in the game on the IPO, which is not that much money, but it's fun because this is an unprecedented, like, next level, biggest valuation, biggest allocation. So another interesting point with, like, I feel like Ben heard me, but the fact that the ETFs have to buy as much as they have to as early as they're going to is going to probably level out the price a little bit.
Yes.
Because so much inflow has to take down a big portion of it. But he also intentionally blocked 30%, which hasn't ever, I'm not sure ever, but is very rare that a company of this scale keeps 30% to the private market. Like, so the reason why we could even buy some. Most of the time, the IPO, you would have to know somebody.
Right.
Or be in a big investment group that has a big chunk, and basically be a higher net worth person to even get tapped in or like clued in. And so the fact that he kept 30% for private, it just goes to show you how much he understands the hype around his stuff, but also he's trying to bring the wealth creation to Main Street a little bit closer. It's just cool.
Yeah. When you're the first person who told me about it like a couple of weeks ago, and I scheduled a meeting with my financial advisor, and we set up a plan, for those of you watching this and it's live and it hasn't come because it's the 10th, and I think they're supposed to go public on the 12th.
Yep.
I'm investing in ARCX, which is a fund. So basically a portion of my investment is going to go into a fund that has pre-IPO shares. They own 17% of the pre-IPO shares.
Wow.
Don't quote me on that exact figure, but that was what I was reading at the time. So that's something that I figured I'd put a portion in, and then I'm going to cost average in the lion's share of the investment. But I'm moving, and I don't normally do this. I just think that this is the future and very special. But I'm moving 7% of my equities to this because I do think it's good. And I think for the naysayers who are like, hey, they're taking advantage of people, they're forcing these funds to invest. I think for America and the world and people who have their retirement, that it's going to have a portion, whether they want to or not, allocated to this.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a net benefit because I do think this is the infrastructure of the future. I do think that this is going to make them money, is what I think. I think it's undervalued at 1.8 trillion. It's like, if the chips are valued at 5 trillion, I don't know. I just feel like this is the future. I really do. I feel like it's the roads. Like, what's the value of the roads in the world? Like, it's trillions, right? If you think about all the commerce that's trading on it, the infrastructure, the labor it costs to build them, it would probably be some huge number, and you don't think about it that way.
Yeah. And so that's your point. I was going to ask you guys about the valuation, because what I've heard from different angles is it on the high end should be like 400 to 600 billion. Should be the true valuation if you were to do normal math.
0.75 trillion. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like 3x.
Yeah. Well, I think they said it was 95 times of the 75 billion they're raising. It was like a 95x.
Yeah, that's nice. No,
not calculated off the money they're raising, but off the income, the valuation. They said it was 95 times. That was what they were estimating the valuation to be at to get to that 1.75 trillion.
95 times what?
The income or the total.
There you go.
Like, of the company.
Yeah. Not the
Sorry,
equity.
I misspoke.
So so the EBITDA or the net income.
Yes.
Yeah, which is
income.
Starlink, by the way. Like,
yes, it is Starlink.
But there's what even that does make sense. So because that would mean that it's basically 1.75 billion.
Right.
Or so and then times 100 would be a 1.75 trillion.
Right.
Yeah, it's I think that the hype is an element. I think you have great points. I also think this is going to do something to the market. I feel like we're like potentially peaking on the top of the market, and this is going to shift and create some different dynamics in the market that could kick off the top of like a decline for the global market.
Everything you're reading, it says expect a wild first day. Like it's saying that it's going to potentially...
it's going to get bid up for probably a week or two and then like come down. Yeah. It's going to be a roller coaster.
Yeah.
But we'll see, because if all of those ETFs have to do like billions and tens of billions of dollars in, it's just going to be crazy.
Yeah. I just want to make a quick correction. ARK VX, it has 18% of its fund is pre-IPO shares.
That makes more sense.
Yeah. Sorry. Just wanted to correct that.
Yeah.
Because that would be like
huge.
Just a big total of money that, they would be.
It's a lot of numbers hitting me right now. So, I know. Looking at all this, but I guess I just feel like, what value do you put on this? You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, okay. So we weren't in the markets when he took Tesla public, and Ty and I have spoke off camera about like, man, we were reading the book back then. We were like studying Elon and some of his methods back then.
Yeah, it was Ashley Vance.
And we were like, man, why didn't we put a couple grand in just, we didn't understand, obviously hindsight's 2020. You didn't understand the level at which Elon was going to go to, but he's probably created more millionaires than anybody at this point.
Which is kind of a really cool
Which is just neat. The value he's driven within Tesla, because Tesla is really like become a software data machine. Mm-hmm. So then it can self-drive and all of that. I've heard that the self-driving on the Tesla is by far the best. I haven't played with any of them, but I've heard that. So like he's just taken tech to different levels across every vector that he gets involved in. And so it really, I do think out of everyone you could ever bet in or bet on, I think he's top 3, if not the guy.
For sure. I mean, bottom line is this guy pretty much invented the electric car. Like there was other people doing it. I'm not sure exactly who the first person who created it, but our understanding of electric cars was made by Elon Musk, and it has become a global phenomenon. Okay. All of everything that he touches just seems to do, amazing things.
I mean, I will say like the Teslas, the way that they run and operate and the systems are so clean, like
super clean.
It's just like, every other automaker tries to do it and it's clunky as heck.
Yeah.
I pulled up some of the information on what Starlink can do, and one of the things that it's talking about is direct to cell connectivity.
Oh yeah, he's taking
5 billion people it can reach through direct phone access. Like
so all of our phones will be sat phones, which thank God.
Yeah,
I'm so sick of
have a problem
how much are all of the phone companies worth?
Well, did you know that they're tanking? Verizon, T-Mobile, all of them, their stocks are tanking because everyone's planning for this.
For satellite, I
even looked at it.
It makes so much sense. Then you're not ever out of service. You get globally.
Well, now flying the plane, he's already made a deal with T-Mobile, and I have a phone, just fun fact, if you buy an iPhone from Apple, you can actually have up to 8 carriers on it. So I have 2. I have T-Mobile and Verizon, because I can't stand not having service.
Yeah.
And it seems like wherever Verizon is, T-Mobile's not. And if T-Mobile's got it, then Verizon's not there. It just seems that way. But he made a deal with T-Mobile where when I'm in the airplane and I have no service just because I'm too far up above it, it pings me up or brings up a little screen and it says, would you like to connect satellites for text? And it immediately, I'd say yes, and I can text, emergency text from satellite interface with Starlink. Because T-Mobile and Starlink made a deal.
Using
so like
T-Mobile.
It's this close to where I've been following 3 different companies that are trying to be the connectivity source for that.
That's pretty cool.
And they haven't made finalized deals. Eventually, I think Elon's just going to buy those companies, or SpaceX will acquire those, because it's like, yes, we need this, But he's going to not only be the internet of the world, he will then be the cell provider of the world.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the new age, it's all about information and data, right? Now you have, let's say that is what happens, that conversion happens, and they have access to all phone data.
Well, and then you go to, these data centers are going to be old fast, right? The ground data centers are going to age poorly. And so he's going to end up consolidating all of the data, and they're all going to have to lease.
This is my theory. You remember when we were learning about the Industrial Revolution? Before the Industrial Revolution, there was like the cotton gin, you know, and they're like, oh, this machine, you ride it like a bicycle and it'll do this work for you. And it was like, that was like a big deal.
Revolutionary.
But then 50 years later, there's like 1,000 people in a skyscraper with those steam engines making basket weaves or whatever, you know, the black and white pictures from our textbooks. I feel like that is the computer. The computer is the cotton gin and internet.
Yeah.
That was the first root of, like, come on. We think it's amazing, and it was. But back in the day, the dial-up, the slow stuff, I mean, it was clunky. Web 2.0, all these things. We've been in that 50-year to where we're in the next industrial revolution. Mm-hmm. That is what I think is going to happen right now. And these tech guys are the new robber barons. They are. It's Carnegie. It's those guys. That's who we are dealing with right now. This is the new wave. AI is here. What is it going to look like? It's going to transform society. And so when we're talking about, I've got it up right now. NVIDIA is 12% of the Nasdaq, 12.96. Apple is 11.37 at $492 a share, or $292 a share as of today. Microsoft 7.8. Like, these are the top three. Those are the top three companies: Amazon, Alphabet, Broadcom, Meta. Like, what do you think's worth more, Meta or freaking Starlink and
the utility,
and SpaceX and all the things that come?
It really is the utility of data and then connection, or connection and the data.
Number 9 is Tesla. What do you think is going to happen with Tesla's stock value?
Well, and God knows he's going to end up doing something together. Like he's
for sure.
He's he's 700 billionaire. 700 billion. He's going to be, I think it's noteworthy to say, he will be the world's first trillionaire on Friday.
Oh, wow. Because it'll all hit.
His package of SpaceX going public is going to end up increasing his net worth by like $500 million. Sorry, 500 billion, half a trillion. Good. So he's going to end up being like 1.3 to 1.5 trillionaire.
Oh my gosh.
How crazy is that? That's noteworthy.
It is.
Moment in time. So to your point, I think it's worth dollar cost averaging. You know, like, I mean, come on. Even if the market tanks short term, he's going to figure. He's hell-bent on figuring it out. He lives for it. He literally lives to solve that problem. And he's now talking about like energy production for the earth and how much the sun produces and how we're basically barely like 0.001% of the sun's energy that hits Earth we're consuming or we're producing. So like you can produce, it's going to become energy. More. I don't know how the heck he's going to pipe it down, right? Like how do you get the energy from up there down to Earth? But they're going to figure out some type of laser or something that can transmit the energy, because if you can do connection, you're going to end up figuring that out.
Yeah, and imagine what do solar panels look like in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, they're going to be small in with space, way more output.
They don't need all of the weird, heavy, clunky dynamics for protection. That's just unreal. It's going to, I think we're in for a wild, interesting ride within this kickoff of this company expanding.
Let's ask Claude. Claude, how will we get power from space?
See what it says.
So, because he's saying that we can end up clearing like as much energy as all of our power production on Earth, you can achieve easily from space.
Well, even he was on Joe Rogan and he was talking about the size of the solar field that you would need to power all of America. And it was like not that big. It was like a 10 by 10 mile chunk or something.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't crazy. It was like,
I wonder if
there's a lot of desert that could have that. You know?
Yeah.
Totally. Arizona, just go stick them everywhere.
What did Claude say?
You can't run cable. Microwave transmission is the leading method.
It's going to have to be some type of beam.
Laser transmission is the alternative, more concentrated, so the receivers fall far smaller.
So at night, you're going to be like flying around and you're going to see these lasers transmitting power down to Earth.
Oh my God.
Dad, I can't move on without saying Dad's the number. Beam me up, Scotty. You know, like from Star Trek. He loved that line.
A few years ago, I was in Baja. Sky's clear, you know, it's pretty crazy. And I was seeing things moving around down there. And it was like, whoa.
Well, you see the satellites. Have you ever seen them lined up?
No.
Oh, Mom, one time I was with her at the river. We're riding around at night in a golf cart.
Yeah.
And I saw like 30 of them in a line.
Wow.
And it looks like you're getting invaded. It's like, what is this?
Jeez,
So
that's pretty
30,
crazy.
it was like at least 15 plus, and they were just in a line.
Wow.
And they're lit because the sun, depending on the angle, they're like a light. It's like, it looks like a star.
Jeez.
And they're perfectly aligned and they're moving fast. And they're satellites once you look at them for a second.
Versus, a star or something else.
Really interesting. So, well, okay. So let's do a bonus round and then we'll close out. What is the future of housing? How does this impact our day in and day out? Basically a big nudge on, you should understand the future that this could bring. It's not 100%, but you should understand and sort of start thinking about it, because then you could become, some type of, application, or, you could get involved from a business level, or how do we adapt housing to make sure we don't get disrupted?
I don't know. That's a very forward thinking thought. I'm not sure. I really think that it's going to be so disruptive that we have no idea what the future landscape looks like, in this specifically. I think that, like, for example, everything could go to where you're fully remote. However, I do feel like companies and people are going to want to congregate together still, right? So then I'm not sure how that looks. I do think that when we see plants, like, for example, we get our homes from Clayton, we source homes from manufacturers. I think that we will continue to see robotics and the replacement of manual labor to do that. And so I wouldn't be surprised if, not that far in the future, home plants are producing beautiful homes that are completely made by machines and then go on a truck, and the truck's automated and it drives it to wherever you need it to be and places it. And so you might see places where you can put homes anywhere and land is cheap, where you can have a $100K, $200K, $300K job from a computer, and you come with meta glasses and sit in a fake office. Like, I don't know. Like, it could be Ready Player One. I'm not sure.
So maybe from a professional standpoint, but then what I'm hearing, seeing, feeling is that people are not fulfilled or happy if that's it. We're communal, and you got to have connection,
community and people around you. So
I think if you leaned into being, this is just me having fun with you guys, if you leaned into being very community focused, I've talked about it with you guys, but there's a really cool community that was built called Fox Point Farms that has a farm, like a place to grow crops, and then it has a little common, like a general store where you can buy the crops that they're getting from the ground right there, farming and yielding right there in their little general store, and then they take the same stuff, cream of the crop, and they have a chef and they cook it upstairs, and it's like really cool farm to table. But you get to live and be next to that.
Yeah,
they sold out, sold out before they were built.
Yeah,
and then the pricing has over doubled in like a few years, and so I think that being tech forward, like not ignoring it, investing in SpaceX kind of dynamic, at least a little bit, being exposed to the equity growth of that dynamic, but then also being able to set all that crap down and go outside and be connected to nature, growing crops and, vegetables and the greens and all the cool stuff to cook really good food, quality food.
Without all the chemicals.
Without all the chemicals, because it's farmed right there. And it's not, you're going for quality over quantity of the yield.
Yeah.
And then you have animals, you can get eggs, they brew beer on site. I'm like, this place is just really set up to become a really great community.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think those types of things are going to win. And so it's a dream of ours, big picture, to like do that somehow and involve modular housing. So we're learning and growing through that. But I think that is the future, where everyone's on solar.
Yeah, well, I was
power, water, everything's there on site, really great. But then you can build a sense of community that's a little bit more connected.
Yeah. There's going to be efficiencies in the homes built by these robots that are just really cool things in the homes.
So shout out to Philippe Lord with Meritage. I've become friends with him. Great guy, but also just really cool insight.
Right. Yeah.
The big issue with completely modernizing housing is the unions of the trades.
Mm-hmm.
So think about everything you touch on site when you truck in the lumber, truck in all the systems, the concrete guy, the window guy, all of those, the
Plumber.
electrician, the plumber, the roofer,
Yeah.
all of those guys come and bring their particular trade and,
Right.
and hard products to the site and then build it. Well, they all have unions that fight for their behalf.
Yep.
And they don't want the cities to approve those developments. So it's really like it's a stuck point. So that the only way through that, in my opinion, is to like technologically outpace the perception of what is going to happen, which is what Elon's done. Elon passed the perception and he just went straight to electric vehicles because there weren't really regulations. Same with rockets. Like he had to fight, I'm sure, regulations on rockets, and that's a whole thing. But like he really took it to a whole new level and passed up a lot of the regulations that were in play, and like where the unions and the people couldn't really fight because it was like from a completely different, unexpected angle.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to figure that out. Like, what's the play with housing where you can sort of go through the blind spot?
Then
I don't know. I think that we're gonna. The other thing that, if we're talking about housing, it's where do people want to be? Yeah. And what's interesting is you'd always bet on big cities, but it seems to me like a lot of our big cities nationwide are failing. And so I'm not sure what that looks like if it continues to compound. Like, are people going to avoid large cities? Are we going to have kind of like, Detroit? If you're looking at history of America, that was like the golden place to be, the Iron City.
Detroit and Chicago.
And now it's like, Chicago still seems to be very popular. Every once in a while, I've never been to Chicago, but I run into people that love Chicago, live in Chicago, and they're like, we're not leaving. It's like, it's only in the South Side where they're shooting everyone every night.
Yeah.
But, like places like Detroit and, what they call the Rust Belt where everybody is left. It's like, I'm not sure what that looks like. I'm not sure what happens with the bureaucracy and how that affects housing too, where people might want to, leave these large cities and go more rural. And now because of because I think it's easy to forget about the fact that like agrarian societies had young death rate, high mortality rates, all these things. Like it was hard. Yeah, there were successful farmers, but there were a lot of people that were starving to death. And so there's a reason why by the millions people flock to large cities to be part of the Industrial Revolution. What happens with this new Industrial Revolution where the infrastructure's moved to space and you can be wherever you want to be?
Yeah, it'll be an interesting thing to watch unfold.
Another great point, though, for like a vote of confidence for SpaceX is, man, the regulatory dynamics are probably the biggest headwind for like innovation into the future.
But there's nothing out there.
But you're cutting right through it.
Yeah.
So I think he kind of run into that when he did Doge, where it was like, I'm not going to be able to do this. We're not going to be able to untangle the red tape enough. All right, we'll just put it all in space. It's like, just seems like that is his kind of future.
It's a very interesting time.
It is. It's going to be fun.
Well, hope you enjoyed that. Main economic topic mixed in with SpaceX IPO and kind of where we see the future going, some of our thoughts. So thanks for joining us for another episode of the Cash Flow Quest, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers, everybody.